Hi everyone, so today we are going to learn about ovarian cycle. So first, what are the events which happens in ovarian cycle? First, why ovarian cycle usually starts at puberty and not before that? It is because at puberty, the HPO axis, which is hypothalamic pituitary axis, is activated. So, if this is activated, it activates hypothalamus, which in turn secretes GnRH, which therefore it stimulates anterior pituitary. This anterior pituitary now produces two hormones, which is FSH and LH. This FSH is a main hormone which initiate the ovarian cycle. All of this happens during the puberty. Now once this FSH levels increase, what does this FSH does is it stimulates and acts on follicle. It acts on follicle, especially what cells of the follicle. First we'll learn about follicle, how it is. This assumes this is the follicle. This is theca cell. Inside is granulosa cell. This FSH acts on this granulosa cell. And now this granulosa cells secrete three hormones. First is estrogen. Second is inhibin B. This is very important. Inhibin B, not A. AMH. What is the role of inhibin B? It inhibits FSH. What is the role of AMH? It is different in females and males. In female, it is produced at puberty. In males, it is produced in intrauterine life. Now this AMH, it's produced by preantral and antral follicles. You might be confused what is this preantral and antral. We'll learn about that within a few minutes. Now what does this estrogen do? It has three functions. First, it has negative feedback on FSH, it has positive feedback on LH, and it also acts on uterine endometrium. What it does by acting on uterine endometrium, it proliferates the endometrium. So one of the reason that for any female with intact uterus we should never give estrogen alone is because it can proliferate and it can lead to endometrial hyperplasia, and it can also lead to endometrial cancer. Now what it does by having a positive feedback on LH, it induces LH surge when the estrogen levels are more than 200 picograms for 48 hours. All of this is very, very important. Next, now it has negative feedback on FSH. So what happens? All follicles undergo apoptosis except one dominant follicle. this dominant follicle, it continues to grow. Now, we'll learn about follicle. First is primary oocyte. It has these follicular cells. Next is this single layer of flat cells, which is primordial follicle. Next, a single layer of cuboidal cells. These are granulosa cells, and this is primary follicle. Next, multiple layers of cells. This is secondary follicle or preantral follicle. Next, it has a cavity. It has granulosa cells. It has theca interna. It has theca externa. This is antral follicle. Here we learned about preantral and antral follicles secrete AMH. This is what I'm talking about, preantral and antral follicles. These secretes AMH. Now this converts into Graafian follicle, where this primary oocyte is converted into secondary oocyte. So all of this is a part of ovarian cycle. Now we're going to learn about this step, LH search. LH search. We learn why and when LH search happens. It happens when estrogen is more than 200 picograms for 48 hours. This is when this LH search happens. What actually happens in LH search? The LH level increase and it acts on granulosa cells, theca cells. Now because of this LH search, meiosis 1 is resumed. So ovulation occurs. Now we learned that FSH acts on granulosa cells, but it does not act on theca cells. Why? Because theca cells has only LH receptors, whereas granulosa cells have both LH and FSH receptors. Now, what this granulosa cell does? This LH, it luteinizes granulosa cells. Now, this is called luteinized follicles. What does this luteinized follicles produce? Produces very small amount of progesterone. This small amount of progesterone will cause increase in FSH and increase in LH. This progesterone has a very unique action. If it is in high amounts, it increases LH and FSH. If it is in low amounts, sorry, if it is in high amounts, it decreases LH and FSH, and if it is in low amounts, it increases LH and FSH. So now, because this luteinized follicles produce just a small amount, there is increased LH and FSH. So what do we understand here? Just before ovulation, there is both LH and FSH surge. Now coming to theca cells. These theca cells, they produce androgens. These androgens enter granulosa cells. And with the help of aromatase enzyme, this androgen is converted into estrogen, E2. It is not the same as E1 because generally androgens, if they act on granulosa cells, with the help of aromatase enzyme, gets converted into E2. But the same androgens, when they act on adipose tissue, with the help of aromatase, it converts into estrogen again. But it's not E2, it is E1. In menopausal women, there is generally no granulosa cells. So the estrogen which they are having is generally E1 estrogen. Now, because ovulation is done, primary oocyte gets converted into secondary oocyte and the follicle gets converted into corpus luteum. Now in the next, this is other part of ovarian cycle. The first part is due to FSH, the second part is due to LH, the third part happens due to corpus luteum. Corpus luteum. So what does this do? The growth and activity of the corpus luteum is maintained by LH, and the maximum size and the maximum activity of this corpus luteum is seen at the day 22 of cycle. Now this corpus luteum produces three, especially mainly it produces progesterone. It also produces estrogen, it also produces inhibin A. Here it is A, while here it is B. By FSH it is B. By corpus luteum it is A. Now what does this estrogen and inhibin have? The major role they play is that they have negative feedback on FSH. Now here progesterone. What is the role of the progesterone? It has two roles. The first role is it supports endometrium. The second role is it has the negative feedback on LH and FSH. Remember I said this point where this progesterone, if it is high, it decreases LH and FSH. If it is low, it increases LH and FSH. Here corpus luteum produces mainly progesterone. So if progesterone levels are high, obviously it has a negative impact on LH and FSH. So now LH decreases, which means the main support of corpus luteum, which is by LH, that is lost. So what happens? Because LH decreases, corpus luteum degenerates. Because corpus luteum is degenerating, what happens? Progesterone decrease, estrogen decrease, inhibin A decrease. Now, because all of these are decreased, because the progesterone is decreased, what happens? The support is lost. Remember, we learned here that progesterone supports endometrium and negative feedback. This support is lost. Support is lost. So what happens? Endometrium is shed, which is menstruation. Progesterone is a smooth muscle relaxant. Now, if this progesterone is decreased, it leads to vasoconstriction. PGF2 alpha is released, which leads to pain, dysmenorrhea. These are the two effects because of decrease in the progesterone. Because the estrogen and inhibin is decreased, negative feedback is lost. We learned here that both of them are having negative feedback. So the negative feedback on FSH is lost. So what happens? FSH increases. So what did we learn for the ovarian cycle to start in the very beginning? That FSH is a main role for initiation of the ovarian cycle. So what happens here? The FSH again increases here, which means new cycle starts. So this is how the ovarian cycle happens. If you understood this, please support and subscribe. Thank you.